it might be time to, and I've been waiting all episode to say this, blabaton about Sabaton.
To blab a
Oh,
ton
please don't.
about Sabaton. To blab a ton about Sabaton. All right, Ian. Okay,
Sabaton,
now
the Swedish heavy metal band, for those of you listening who are not familiar. And
well,
we have a question coming in here, and this is coming from one AJ.
And just to be clear, I really like Sabaton, but I'm not a fan of the blabaton part.
and also to be clear, I told Ian to say that, and he's going to take the fall for it, but it's actually me that said, tell me to blab a ton about Sabaton. See, so you can blame me instead of poor Ian, who's just starting his career while I'm in the twilight of my years, in the twilight of my fame, and it's all downhill from here. Okay, don't blame Ian.
I'm doing my
Ian
best
together
to follow, do what I'm told and learn from the best here. So I'm gonna keep shooting up. But I know India's listened. This is coming in from AJ now. I know India's listened to the War to End All Wars. I believe it's Sabaton's song. At least a couple of times.
It's a new album.
New album. At least a couple times at this point. What's your favorite song or songs? One pick for enjoying purely musically, and one pick for context / the event that inspired it. I have no idea what Sparty's musical taste is, so same question to him, either about the album or a recent album of your choice from your preferred genre. So, gentlemen, take it away.
Well, my favorite song from the album overall has to be The Unkillable Soldier, mainly because, it's a really good song, but I'm the star of the video. I got to play Carton Devilla. They sent me down to Serbia to be Carton and to film and to have my eye blown out. If you haven't seen the video, you should just look up Sabaton, The Unkillable Soldier, and you'll see me. So it's the second time I've starred in a Sabaton video. And for those of you who wonder what connection we have with Sabaton, there's the channel Sabaton History, because since 2002, I think, every single song that Sabaton has written is about some aspect of military history. It's much like us. We cover wars because we're anti-war, basically. People misunderstand us, they misunderstand them, but that's what they write about. And this is their second album in a row, The War to End All Wars, after The Great War, which is only has songs that cover things of the First World War. And when Joachim and Per, the singer and the bass player, and they're the ones that write the songs, they told me that back in 2004 they were thinking, wouldn't it be great if we had a TV station that could tell the stories, the stories, the actual history behind the songs that we can't cover in just 3 minutes or 3 or 4 verses, right? So when I first met Per, because he guested on The Great War, I went up to visit Per and Joachim in Falun in Sweden, where they're from, because it's a Swedish band. And then we came up with the idea for the Sabaton History channel. And I know I'm rehashing things for many of you, but what it is we've made like 108 episodes now. We've covered every single song Sabaton has ever written, some of them twice or even 3 times with different aspects. And it starts off with me telling the actual history of what the song's about, and then an interview with me and somebody from the band about some weirdness from the song, about the song itself, about something about touring with the song, or yada, yada, yada. So I am going to blab a ton about Sabaton. But The War to End Wars, my favorite song is, of course, The Unkillable Soldier, because I was the star of the video. My favorite song...
I have to say, I actually hosted 2 episodes of Sabaton as well. Remember that?
That's true. You did.
Yeah, I jumped in. Yeah. I did one of them in Swedish even, which was weird.
Yeah. Well, they speak Swedish.
You did a Swedish one as well, I think, didn't you?
I speak Swedish too. It's a thing with TimeGhost. We just all randomly speak Swedish. Yeah, I did. We did En livstid krig, A Lifetime of War. Yeah, because here's the thing. Right. They did their album that came out 10 years ago, Carolus Rex, which is about King Carl XII, right? Who basically destroyed the Swedish Empire and ruined the country for 150 years, which is kind of what the album's about. But they recorded the album, and there's a Swedish version and an English version. It's the same music, but the singing is different. And A Lifetime of War and En livstid krig, if you follow the lyrics, they're actually not about the same thing. It's not just a translation. They're about 2 different aspects of the 30 Years' War. That you could, be born and you could die when you're 35 years old. If you were born 5 years, you were born in 1611, You'd be 35 when you died, and you would never have known anything other than a lifetime state of war. So that's why I did the Swedish thing. But to answer the question, I think subject matter. I like the and they just came out with the video for the song "Race to the Sea" just recently, which has to do with the race to the sea in 1914, which is one of the biggest misnomers in military history, because what it was the Germans and the British on one side and the British and French on the other side trying to outflank each other as the trench lines were growing towards the North Sea. So the last thing anybody wanted to do was reach the sea, right? It was the race to go around the other guy before we get to the sea, and then there's trench lines from Switzerland all the way to the North Sea, and then we're stuck in trench warfare for years and years. But on another note, I actually went to see Sabaton last night. Their European tour was canceled or postponed because of Corona, but their Swedish tour that was supposed to happen last year was postponed to this year. So they played in Eskilstuna, which is about an hour away from Stockholm. And me and my honey Emily and Maria Schille, who used to do the Patreon and community management for the Sabaton History channel, we went down to see the show. And it was great, for one. And for two, it was nice to hang out with the guys and see the guys backstage, because I actually became really good friends with all of the band after, so much time spent together, especially all this weird stuff in Tunisia. Story for another day. But, I get recognized a fair amount from the Great War or from World War II, and sometimes from Sabaton History when I'm out there. But when I'm at a Sabaton concert in the audience, I didn't realize this, that no, I'm a big celebrity there. I had to do at least 15 or 20 selfies with people, and you can see there are people that were just looking over but were too shy to come up. So that was I didn't, of course Sabaton fans are a really large group and a really tight knit group. But I didn't realize that it was going to be like that. But it was because it's the first time I've seen them play. Well, the last time I saw them play was when we were filming last summer in Serbia, but I was only backstage. And so, I wasn't out among the crowd. But that was... I think
that working with Sabaton, doing Sabaton History together with them has made, fans of all of us. We even have some people in the crew that didn't listen to heavy metal in any way before, and they've gone to do it. And we spent... When they came out with the Great War album, we were in Verdun together with them.
Yeah.
And that was very moving. It was very, it's funny because it's a little bit something that ties us all together from both the view also on the tragedy of it, which is, I think, also why my favorite topic, from a context viewpoint, it is The Fields of Verdun, which is my favorite song. But
but that's on the Great War. That's not on the War to End All Wars. But still, they played that last night. Fields of Verdun. Oh, great song. It's a
really, really great song. So that's that, and that just stays with me because it's so.
Okay, I will say this.
Listen to it.
My favorite song on their 2 World War I albums altogether, without a question, is "Attack of the Dead Men." That's my favorite Sabaton song. That's my favorite Sabaton song of all songs, and they did not play that last night. No, it's interesting.
That one's in Indy. I know you've seen that, but for anybody who hasn't seen Joachim, the singer of Sabaton, do that on stage, you've missed something. When he's all dressed up in gas mask and he's got a green smoke machine like a flamethrower, it's amazing.
And that's why they couldn't do or didn't do it last night, because this wasn't a giant Paris, London, Berlin, Stockholm arena tour. It was a Swedish tour with venues that only hold 1,200, 2,000, 3,000 people. They're not playing in Stockholm because the Stockholm show was part of the canceled European tour, not part of the Swedish tour. That's why I went down to see them. So although it was a big venue and it was packed, the stage was not big enough for the tanks and the barbed wire and everything. It was just a show. But I was gonna say,
it's an amazing stage show.
Yeah, no, it was a great side effect of doing the show, is becoming really good pals with all of the Sabaton guys. But when you mentioned the Verdun trip, it was then that I really realized. I mean, I knew they were really big and big internationally and stuff, and you can see, sure, a power metal band, and they sell a lot. But you know, there's other big power metal bands like Judas Priest and stuff who are bigger, sure. But when we were in Verdun working with them, what they had done was for the release party of the Great War, they had at their own expense flown 100 metal journalists to France and put them up for a week in Verdun to launch the album and to bring them around on tours of Verdun and have me roped in to talk about the Battle of Verdun and what it actually meant for the war and what it meant for the world, not just the battle, because you got to be nerds like us to really want to hear about just the battle, but to hear about all the actual weirdness that came out of it and how much it shaped our world. And I'm like, that's really cool that you have dedication like that. That's when you really start to get a lot of respect for how much they feel about history and how they treat history. And as Joachim says,
I think it was also, I think, I mean, I know we've talked about this after the trip, and especially for those of us who might not have known Sabaton so well before, it really dissipated all of the misunderstandings about, you know, glorifying war and everything. Because, I mean, something that Joachim Per really put a lot of effort into was also show the journalists and use us to show the journalists how tragic this situation was and how much fascination for war, just like we have it, doesn't have to mean that you like war. It just means that you're fascinated by it. And I know it really, it was an awakening moment, especially for Astrid, who wasn't so like familiar with the whole controversy around it, but had then heard about how there had been controversy, and to see how dedicated they were to the whole idea of remembrance and also lifting up the tragedy of the individuals that suffered under what is fascinating history.
And you'll also remember that Tommy, one of the two guitarists, he still was undefeated in the Tommy Challenge against all of the world's great metal journalists. Tommy can still drink a beer faster than any of them. We have some great videos. I don't know if we're ever going to put them up on Sabaton History, although we might as well, because I was the judge. I was the host and judge, me being the host, and me also having been a judge. We'll talk about that another day. I've never been a judge, but yeah, that was a great fun trip. You know, that was our last real road trip.
Standing on a table. Remember that, Indy?
Yes.
MCing you, the judge.
Yep.
I personally would really like to see some kind of road trip or some meeting of the fans one day soon, and perhaps because I read you all your comments, guys. But
well, we did, you know, with the Great War, we did 3 or 4 of them a year the last 3 years of the war. Well, even starting in 2015. But we haven't been able to do that with this, and the main culprit has been Corona. You know, the France trip was great. You know, not just because of the Sabaton stuff, but we shot like 8 specials for World War II stuff. We could dispel Maginot Line myths by being there on the ground. We went to Jean-Paul de Vries' place in Romagna and had a great fan meeting, and I missed those things. And now we can maybe start doing them again. But that was one of my favorite things about doing the Great War, was going to the places, going to the fan meets. Interestingly enough, when we were going to do the first one, we had finally had enough money coming in from Patreon that we could do a fan thing. Our social media guy then, Florian, he asked the fans, like, where would you like us to go if we were going to do something on location, a Great War on location? Remember, this is 2015. And we thought people were going to say, oh, go to the Somme or go to Verdun or go to something like that. But no. It was overwhelming. It was like 90% of people said, go to Przemysl in Poland, because I had talked so much. I'd never even heard of Przemysl before I started doing the Great War. But I talked about the siege of it week after week after week after the first airmail ever, Konrad von Hotzendorf sacrificing 800,000 men to fail to free 200,000. And that was, and going there, and that's when you really see the Eastern Front. When you go to Przemysl, there's still so much cool stuff that's there around the fortress town. And you understand why it was a fortress town, because there's one point right near the town when you can walk up on the hill and you can see at least 150 kilometers in every direction. You can see the curvature of the earth. Yeah,
I think that gives us an interesting exit point for today, highlighting the tragedy that while Indy was covering Schimmel as somebody, well, one of the only people doing that between 2014 and 2018, now it's back in the news. And I mean, it's on the news every day because once again, Schimmel is in the middle of a war zone, or at the edge of a war zone, I should say.
Well, yeah, a little bit north, but still, it's but it's.
Oh,
we went that trip actually.
Coming in there.
We went to Lviv in that trip. We did some filming and met university professors in Lviv to talk about some stuff, and I thought Lviv, one, is a staggeringly beautiful city, and it's weird because I thought it was going to look more Eastern and more Russian, but it doesn't. It looks like Vienna, but with Orthodox churches instead of Catholic churches, right? Because it was the capital it was Lemberg under the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which was the capital of Galicia, the easternmost Austro-Hungarian province. And I saw a line of like 25, 80-year-old women on segways, segwaying past the opera house. And that's when I thought, okay, I like this town. I like this town. So I'd never seen that before. Wonderful town.
But that is how it is.
Yeah.
History echoes down through the time, and it's nice in some points. Right now, it's not so nice. But I think that's, once again, I'm going to say this, and I say this all the time, but that's why it's so important to learn about history, because we can put things into context. And once you know that Schimmel was in I can't say it.
Yeah, no, trust me, it took me a while to get it pronounced right. Eventually, the Polish people started saying, "You got it, Przemyśl."
I actually thought it was very entertaining because, although I can't say it myself, I know you can, and I remember how you say it. And listening to CNN when the refugee crisis started, and they were covering it from there.
Oh God! Okay.
Yeah. It was so entertaining to see one journalist after the other try to say
Przemyśl.
Indy.
Przemyśl.
There you go. Przemyśl.
Yeah. Oh, that was pretty good.